right, Johnny Girroir, you have been killing it all year in sprint enduro and U.S. sprint enduro. And this track in particular was really technical. So I was just wanting to get your perspective on what was it like for you. Did you have to change anything in your attacking the track because it was so rocky than the usual sprints?
Yeah, for sure. I never really changed tires in the sprint enduro day, but yeah, we were going to an 81 out on the cross test, and we were running a gummy in the woods. It got super rocky out there. It was super technical and kept you on your toes. I think it kind of tried to bite every one of us pros at one point throughout the weekend. So yeah, I decided I wanted to bring a gummy this week, and wasn't really running it. And Liam put the gummy on the second enduro test Saturday and blew my doors off by about 11 seconds. So came back third test Saturday, raced it with an 81. It was good. Decided I wanted to switch to the gummy too, and had a much better day today. So yeah, it was definitely different, and it's the first time that I switched tires throughout the day at sprint enduro. So yeah, it was technical and it kept you on your toes.
That's cool. And like, what did you think about the series overall? I know you're the champ. We still have one round to go, but you know I know you've been racing with us for a while now. So what are you thinking as you go forward? You enjoying the sprint, U.S. sprint?
Yeah, I enjoy this format of racing, and I enjoy the U.S. sprint enduro, and I feel like it's good practice for 6 days if you're going to go over to ISD, and it's kind of the only, format that is similar to ISD in 6 days. So yeah, it gets you out there, it gets you pushing your limits, and riding on that edge for if you ever want to go to 6 days and ride with the best riders in the world.
There you go, no doubt. So you're looking forward to that? You ready to go, you think?
Yeah, I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, really good. Well, really happy to have you be part of this series. You're awesome advocate, too, for the sport. Everybody really looks up to you, the kids especially.
Thank you.
And it's really awesome. And definitely check out the picture AP did. It was a really cool picture of you jumping down this hill over here, and the kids are just like mouths wide open. And it's just really cool. They really admire you, and we're glad to have you be a part of our series.
Thank you. I'm glad to be a part of it.
Awesome. All right, Angus Reilly, you won the Pro 2 class today, and you had some really tight racing with Tino and everything, and I know Morris was hauling butt. So, what was the race like for you? And what I'm asking more so is, it seemed like a really technical track, a little bit different than a lot of the sprints. So how did you deal with the technicality, all these rocks, and just how slippery it was?
Yeah, it was super rocky, especially today, and it was real bull dusty, so under all that dust was a rock, so you had to really be careful, ride a gear higher and stand up. I was just trying to get as many tips off Johnny as I could. He was out there smashing it. Then there was a good team player that last sprint, and he actually gave me his gummy tyre, and that gave me the win, so thanks to Johnny.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What did you prefer out there, the enduro or the cross test?
Probably the cross test.
Yeah.
Just more my style, not dodging anything.
Yeah, so you went home. What's this terrain like when you went home and did some racing there? Like, how's it compare?
When I went home to Australia, it was in the desert, so I was doing 100 mile an hour.
Wow.
On a 450, and I come back here and I'm dodging rocks and trees, so completely different.
Did it take you a minute to kind of get into that mode?
When I went home, the main thing is getting your eyes adjusted. That sounds silly, but things go by quick.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Are you enjoying the series so far?
Yeah, love it. Got one more to go, and hopefully we can bring it home.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Jason Tino, you made it real interesting out there this weekend. Your whole class was like really competitive, and it was really fun to watch the times back and forth, and it was really fun to watch. And I'm just curious, like, if you had to change how you normally approach a sprint because of how rough and rocky it was.
Yeah, the racing was very tight, and it made it very stressful, especially on a track like this where it could easily bite you. There's lots of loose rocks and loose dirt. It was very talcum powdery because it was so dry, but no, it's pretty much just try to hold on to that thing, go as fast as you can, and try not to crash.
So business as usual.
Business as usual.
Gotcha.
Same approach.
And would you enjoy better, the enduro or the cross test ultimately?
Usually I like the enduro more, but I like the cross test a little bit more this weekend.
Cool. And are you coming to the last round, South Carolina?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Right,
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
Awesome. Well, we look forward to seeing you. Think you're going to be able to capture that championship? You're looking for that?
Absolutely.
You're like real
Absolutely.
tight, aren't you?
Yeah, Gus and I are tight. I mean, he's been riding really good.
And it's going right
Pulling
down to the wire.
Pulling some wins, but yeah, it's coming down.
That's going to be exciting.
But yeah, it's no question we'll be going head to head, neck and neck.
Cool. All right, Dominic Morris, you were hauling ass today.
Trying.
Just plain and simple. So, like, what was it like for you today? Because it was kind of sketchy, and I know, like, it's a sprint, so you're so used to pushing, but, you know, it's a little more cross-country, like, hair scramble stuff. So how did you deal with that? Did you approach it differently?
Definitely. You couldn't push kind of like the other sprints. You kind of had to be hesitant and just kind of make sure you weren't hitting the edges of the rocks and stuff. But the conditions were kind of like up at home for me, so it was pretty nice to ride in some rocks and not have some red clay and a little bit more technical, which I actually liked it. Kind of struggled at first, but towards the end of the weekend, I got it down packed pretty good.
That's awesome. What did you prefer, like the enduro or the cross?
Oh, I'm definitely a cross test ripper for sure. Got a few wins in the Pro 2 class for the cross test over the weekend, but gotta improve in the woods for sure.
Awesome.
Cross test is my favorite though.
We saw you just coming out on the cross test. I don't know, this one downhill. It was so fast. It was faster than anything. I was like, wow. So that was really cool. So are you going to be able to come to the next one down in South Carolina?
Yeah, I'll definitely be at that one. I'm going to be training at the Shoals for a week before, so hopefully I'll be ready for that one to maybe finish out with a win, because I really want to get a win this year.
Awesome. Yeah, you're coming back from injury and stuff, so you're getting...
Yeah, last year I broke my hand, unfortunately, and just been working a lot this year. Haven't been able to ride, so hopefully finish out this year good and make a big push for next year for the championship.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, Gavin Simon, you had a really great race this weekend, and you had a lot of competition, and I think you just, all together, you looked really solid, and you were flowing really well. But I know that this particular sprint was pretty rough compared to some of the ones that we have with all this rock, and I'm just curious, like, how did you tackle that? Did you have to change anything from normal, like how you ride, or, you know, just your perspective on that?
Yeah, not really. Where I live up in Vermont, it's real similar to that. It did kind of work out, though. I had a softer bib in my rear tire. I knew it was going to be rocky, but not that rocky. But it worked out good. The tire setup and my suspension, I run pretty soft anyway, so I didn't really have to change it. But yeah, the bike worked great. I think that was most of the reason why I rode so good. All weekend, but yeah, and Saturday helped for sure getting that lead, because today JoJo, Cooper, they were a little bit faster towards the end of the day, and the last test it was super sketchy out there, so I was a little more cautious, and they ended up beating me for the day, but yeah, it was fun for sure.
Did you go down at all this weekend?
I didn't. Somehow I'd stuck my foot out in the cross test and jammed my toe bad. My nails like ripped off. But other than that, no.
All right.
No, I got lucky.
Will we see you in South Carolina for the final round?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome. And yeah, you enjoying the series altogether? Or?
Yeah, they're super fun. I like them. I think they're good for GNCCs, like any other series. Really, it teaches you how to go super fast. You're like pushing yourself the whole weekend.
Yeah, a lot of people say that they're not sure they want to try it because they don't think that you get enough seat time. But you know, it's also kind of what kind of intensity that you put forth, I think, too. That
yeah, for sure. I definitely feel it after 2 days of racing, for sure. If you're pushing 6 tests every single day, you're definitely going to be a little sore Monday.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you, and we're glad that you're racing our series, and we look forward to seeing you in South Carolina.
Cool.
Thanks. Brandy Richards. Brandy, you are really killing it in this series. It's really exciting too, because I know coming from the West, it's just been something you've had to adapt to, but I mean, you wouldn't know that, being someone maybe that didn't know that, you know, your history or where you're from or anything. So you're really doing really well. See you in the woods, see you like out in the fields. Nothing seems to slow you down. So, but I am curious, like, if you had to approach this round differently than you normally would because of how rough and rocky it was, or was it pretty much just not a big deal?
I mean, honestly, yeah, a little bit different, just because of the drastic differences between the cross and the enduro. So the cross it helped it being a little bit tighter than what it usually is. So like when you first start, it's super smooth and you can kind of sit down earlier and set up your corners and stuff. And as it goes on, it gets rougher. You get the braking bumps. You have to like sit a little bit later, so you're not like sitting in the bumps and getting unsettled. And then for me personally, I had to like stiffen my forks because the bumps like it makes it super unsettling coming in. And then in the enduro, it was so like more technical and rocky, I would soften my suspension for that. So having to go back and forth between clickers was definitely super helpful, which I usually don't have to do that at some of the sprints because they're a lot more similar and you can run the same settings. But for me to be more comfortable in the enduro, I definitely had to soften it up, especially as it got rougher and just a little loose on the rocks. But it was all in all good, and definitely a little bit different than some of the sprints, but pretty similar.
Yeah, I remember like seeing you out there in the field, and it just looked like super slippery too. So it was like if you didn't have the rocks to contend with, it just seemed like it was so dry and slick too.
Yeah, especially like when we first started, when you mow it, it's like the dead grass. So you kind of have to be mindful of that. Like the fresh grass is like the most grippy. So as soon as the grass goes away and there's dirt, it's super slippery. So you go from looking for like the loose dead grass to looking for like the fresh grass and staying off like the dirt, because the dirt's super slippery, and just trying to find those little lines.
Yeah, I mean, that's all part of what makes you a champion, is knowing what to do and when. So ultimately, how are you feeling? Like, I mean, just being on the East Coast, are you happy being here and the racing that you have to choose from here? Are you pretty happy with what you do?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. I loved being able to come into this series just because I guess you could say it's a little easier for me to jump in just because I've been training for ISD for so many years. Like, it's a similar kind of training, having that sprint, having the grass tests, and the enduros have been a little bit different to kind of get used to the trees, which took me a few months, and I felt a lot more comfortable. But it's definitely still a learning curve, just reading the terrain and kind of knowing how to hit everything, like the tree roots and the rocks. It's a lot of thinking. Just coming from the West, like that stuff's just so natural to me. You can kind of see everything, and that's just comes so natural to me. And then this stuff I really have to think about and try to work on setup and just trying to get more comfortable in it.
What is preparation like for you? Like, what do you do during the week, like training? Are you riding a lot, or is it just, I don't know, I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's quite a bit of riding. We were doing a lot of long motos to get ready for GNCC. Now we're kind of getting more into the sprints, which I enjoy a little bit more. I like the sprint style kind of racing. It's definitely a lot of heavy lifting because just being a female, you're like naturally kind of weaker. So it's a lot of weightlifting. So if you do get out of control or anything, it's a lot easier to just like tighten up and stay straight. And then a lot of cycling, like heart rate, zone 2 cardio and stuff, and just like sprints on the bicycle too, just like, so you're only going for 8 to 10 minutes, but it's like pretty intense. Like it's everything you have for that 8 to 10 minutes. So just kind of doing sprints on the bicycle to get your heart rate ready, and just kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah, cool. Well, I appreciate it, and we're glad to have you out here. You're great to advocate for the sport too. All the ladies that race with us are awesome, and the girls look up to him. And for me, also being a woman rider, it's really cool to see our sport growing so much on the women's side. Yeah. Even with our girls' classes, and it's so cool for them to be able to come out here and see you guys like pushing and going so fast and being competitive in overalls and everything. Yeah. So, and that's what it's all about. And to get them geared up and excited is what's going to keep growing the sport. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you being very approachable. All the girls are. And, pretty much this series is, like, all of our riders are really approachable. And so I think that's really great for growing our sport.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah, like being, growing up in the sport, you always looked up to those riders, especially if you go up and talk to them and have a conversation with them, ask them for advice. Like that means so much to someone else, and I'm glad to be able to pass that forward and to the next generation. I would love to see the sport grow as much as it can, and it's cool to see.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for being a part of it in our series. All right, Cory Steed, tell me about your race today, and I'm just like really curious, since this is a sprint enduro and the track was really rough and we had a lot of rocks, and it's kind of something you see a lot more in hare scrambles or cross country. What was it like dealing with that for a sprint?
Yeah, it was a little hairy, to say the least. You kind of just have to go into it with an open mind and obviously try to be fast, but the more mistakes you make out there, the more time that adds up. So you really have to be smart, and especially on the rocky track that we had today, you have to shift up a gear and just let your bike kind of work under you. But yeah, I struggled big time out there. Was on the ground too much, but yeah, it was still fun.
It's still fun. So you did have a couple of tip overs or some hard crashes? Oh,
yeah. The last cross test today, I had a pretty hard one. I never really had hard ones in the woods, just little tip overs from hitting rocks and like losing the front end. But yeah, the last cross test sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of silt out there, and it seemed like it was hiding some of the rocks and just taking.
Yeah, it was really deceiving. Like usually you can kind of trust the grass and like really dive into it and let it eat in the grass. But no, like there's rocks and like shaly rocks under the grass out there on the cross test, so it was really hard to really trust anything. But yeah, it was gnarly.
Was this one of the more technical sprints on the series that you've done?
Yeah, I'd say this is like the first sprint enduro that I was like sketched out racing. Yeah. But yeah, the woods, it was pretty hairy to try to push, especially today when the rocks were just getting dug up. But yeah, it was gnarly.
Do you think this kind of event, being that sketchy and stuff, do you think you still learn from it and it'll help you out like when you go to ISD and stuff?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously some of the tracks at ISD get chewed out like that, so it's good practice for sure. It just keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.